Another book I read was The Faustian Host by Dave Becker. Story about a boy going off to an academy, private school. There's some paranormal stuff happening. It's a 14-year-old boy, Tony, and he is going to live at an academy after death in the family. It turns out that Kalos Academy is for gifted children. You have to take a very detailed examination to get into the school, and he makes it in. There's monsters, there's plagues, there's mythology, superstitions, all this kind of intense stuff going on at the school. I thought it was a good, imaginative read. I ended up giving that one 5 stars as well. I thought it was very well put together. It had great pacing, great story, great writing. Everything just kind of worked well together. Another book I read was Bound by Annie Oldham. This one is another one where the parent dies and the main character, Wynn, goes off to Atomy to attend school. In this particular case, when she shows up to school, and it's like an amazing school. It's like the royalty's old home, like the queen or something's old residence, and it's next to the palace. Could you visualize that? I mean, that was just great visualization imagery right there from the beginning of the story. Starts noticing some weird stuff. The eyes of the guards and security guards and stuff, they kind of glow, and just like these little tiny things she starts noticing, and ends up learning that the stories that her mother told her as a child were true, and she gets more involved in the discovery of this world and the clashing of her own world. So it's pretty interesting. It was fun. It was imaginative. I really liked the setting of it, and I gave it 4 stars. Another book I read that I don't think that I talked to you guys about, it was for the crime site I reviewed for, and it was called Last Will by Liza Markland. This one is about, it's like the 6th book in a series. It's about a newspaper journalist, and in this particular one, she is attending the Nobel Prize party, and a couple of people get shot at the party, and since she's there and witnesses it, and she even has a run-in with the killer, she becomes part of the investigation. The police officers forbid her for releasing the information until they can find the killer or get more detailed into the case. And so this causes a lot of disgruntled boss as far as the newspaper goes. And she kind of gets just this whirlwind kind of thing happening between her being involved with as first-hand account witness of the shootings, and her not being able to work. Plus, in previous stories, she had her spouse has cheated on her, and she has 2 young kids, and she's got just so much going on. I was really surprised at how much the author put this character through. It's just one thing after another. She was an emotional roller coaster, and I was always wondering right up into the end if she was going to lose it or not, because there were a couple of times that you could see that maybe she just was not going to make it through this okay with her family intact, family and job intact, because oh my gosh, so much is going on in this book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Another book I read was Paraglide by Peter Kelly Anthony. And this is about a brother and a sister who their mother gets kidnapped and their father has kind of gone missing. And they get drawn into this whole thing. The kidnappers approach them about their missing father, and they're like, if you don't tell us where your father is, then your mother's not going to come back alive, kind of deal. So they haven't seen their father in months. Their mother and dad had separated, and so they don't know where to find their dad, and they're stuck right in the middle of everything, trying to figure out what's going on. They travel to different countries. There's a lot of action. There's plot twists and turns and people they don't know if they can trust, giving them information and they just don't know what to do, where to go. But I mean, overall, they're really tough kids and they're smart, and I gave it 4 stars. I also read The Brotherhood of Praxia by Michael Drakich. This one was also like a great fantasy fairy tale kind of a feel to it. There were princesses and castles, all that fun stuff. They go on an adventure. The majority of the book really is military procedures and maneuvers and old-fashioned fairy tale kind of a read with more of a, I guess, a video game, you know, military tactics mixed in there. I really did enjoy the read, and I liked the princess and the characters that were more of the scenes that involved her I related to more, and I gave that 4 stars. So, I also read the Nightworld by Jack Blaine. One day his father hides him in a closet and says, don't come out, don't make a noise, and he witnesses his father getting shot. The people leave the house, and the father gives him this, I don't want to say trinket, but this, you know, this metallic thing, telling him to keep it safe. And he knows he's not safe in his own house because these men didn't get what they were looking for. So he goes to a friend's house, and they're not there. He ends up staying there for a while. There's a huge black cloud that's covering the city, and pretty much people have abandoned and have left town suddenly. And he is staying in his friend's house. They've left town and left their dog, so he's there taking care of this dog. And one day his car with all of his supplies and everything that his dad and him had packed for escape gets stolen, and he has no choice but to leave the house. And it's him kind of finding where he can go and keep this thing safe, and he ends up eventually hanging out in a place where he meets a girl, so there is a little bit of romance. And then at the end it kind of gives a real good kick that draws you into wanting to read the next story. I wasn't as drawn into this one as Ashfall by Mike Mullen, which I loved. But it did have still the same kind of feel to it, the need to survive and something dangerous going on in this weird, you know, apocalyptic event happening up in the clouds. So, the whole middle part of the book, though, I just didn't feel was very intense or what I wanted it to be, but the beginning and the end were really good. So, I still liked it. I'm nervous about it, but I'm kind of excited to see where the next book goes, so I gave it 3 stars. The book that I read and have already reviewed for all the sites, The Vanishing Game by K.K. Myers, and I've heard that you either like it or you don't on this one. I really like this story. I was drawn into it immediately. It's dark, it's dangerous. The main character almost gets killed several times in it, and she is figure out she thought her brother was dead, but she gets this mysterious letter one day that's in his code name from their childhood. And it has clues in it, and she's thinking, okay, he must be alive and is sending me a message, and I've got to follow the clues. And so she has to really relive a lot of events that happened in her childhood, which weren't very good. She lived in a foster care home that was horrible, and she has to relive these events as she is figuring out the clues as well. And I thought it was dark. I thought it was gripping. I didn't know what was going to happen. I never saw the end coming. And I personally love the story. I gave it 5 stars. Another book I read was The Lure of Shaban Say by Krista Hawley. In the beginning of the book, she comes across a half Selkie, half human baby, has just been born, and the townsfolk threw it in the water because it's not human. It doesn't belong with them. It's not it's not right. So they throw it in the water to die or live as a selkie. Whatever happens to the baby happens. And she witnesses this. She jumps into the water trying to save the baby, and unfortunately is unable to do so. And when one of the selkie men, when one of the selkies realize that the baby is dead, he's really angered and comes up to try to find the one that has murdered it, and runs into this girl instead. She's on the shore, and he you know, something goes on between them. Now, the Selkies are known to, you know, bring about lust. They have these powers of drawing the women to them, and this is why so many women in town have become pregnant with these half-human babies. Just falls for this Selkie immediately, and it causes a big uproar, you know, especially with her fiancé and other people in town, and it's just it was a good, had lots of folklore in it. It had, you know, this just old-timey feeling of fairy tale and fantasy, and I really enjoyed it. I thought she did a great job. I was hooked from the first page. I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it to girls that like the paranormal romance and are looking for something a little bit different. If you haven't heard of Selkies, you can kind of imagine a mermaid-like being, if you would like. I also read Wicked Hungry by Teddy Jacobs. This one has a big mixture of different paranormal beings, and it takes place in a town where weird things start happening. A boy who has hurt his leg, and he can no longer participate in sports. It kind of is discussing his transformation. He comes from a vegan household, but all of a sudden he's having these just hungers for meat. There's a lot of concentration on food and his desires in the first couple of chapters. And then things start developing more, and you find out that he's been taking pills from a guy in town, and he's taking pills, and he's suddenly becoming more wolfish physically, and he can walk again, and different things are happening to him. But there's also different things happening throughout the whole city. Different people are turning into different kind of creatures. Each person kind of develops a creature more towards their personality. So you've got a whole bunch of different things happening. I wish I would have loved more of the story, but I did think I think there was a great idea and plot to the storyline, but I didn't really start enjoying it till the end. So I gave this one 3 stars. Another story I read was Thoughtless by Jacqueline Gardner. This is about a girl who can read minds, and one day she can feel somebody at school thinking at her, like it's more dominant, and there's more prominent thought waves, like it's meant just for her, and nobody really knows that she could read minds, and this kind of starts to freak her out a little bit, like who is thinking at her. And they're dark, and it's scary kind of thoughts that she's getting directly thrown at her. And there's a murderer in town, and she is trying to figure out you know, who's murdering people. She is listening, trying to figure what's going on. And when somebody's thoughts are starting to be directed at her, she kind of gets freaked out about that, because nobody really knows about her powers. And she makes some dumb mistakes through it, and you're reading this going, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Kind of a story. I thought it was really gripping. It was dark and mysterious, and I didn't put this one down. Since the first page to the last page, I read right through it. I enjoyed it. I liked the characters, the whole story, the plot, the ideas. It was just really well put together. I enjoyed it. And, you know, there's a boy and her best friend, and lots of things are happening, and I liked it. I recommend this one. Thanks for sticking with me for both my videos, and I'll probably be back again soon. Bye!